Good evening, good evening, good evening. I am happy to be back. This is Francesca from No Longer Silent. So good evening. I hope everybody had a wonderful, wonderful week. It ain't over yet, but I always start with a poem with my topic. So tonight we're going to be talking, and it's interesting because I posted it up, and sometimes we live with situations like that. So we're going to be talking tonight the 10 signs of a psychopath. So very interesting topic and very interesting dialogue tonight. So I'm ready for it. I have some heavy hitters that are going to come on tonight, and we're going to discuss men and women with tendencies and signs of psychopaths. If you thought narcissist was horrible, the data that I looked for psychopaths is even worse. My kings and queens, we're going to have a wonderful podcast tonight because I'm ready. So here we go with the poem, Psychopath. Wouldn't it be strange to meet a psychopath? Stand 3 feet from this dynamic skull and stare into his sunken eyes, which you know must crinkle with warmth every time he harvests human life. What would it be like to watch him brush his teeth for 2 silent minutes under a sprinkling fluorescent light? Would he perhaps swish differently than the rest of us? Does he count his brush strokes? Does he look at himself in the mirror? What sitcom does he watch late in the evening? Can he smile at the jokes at the blue light and radio waves wash over his face? Does he even slip a midnight snack between his crooked teeth? Those key worries about his weight. How horrible to meet a psychopath face to terrible face, maybe from the perspective of his non-descriptive victims. To have a little of his twisted soul wrapped into your head as you make eye contact. To perhaps recognize a little psychopath within yourself. Not saying that we have that, but we live moments that we never know who's who, and they have a tendency of having those symptoms. And sometimes, as I looked into this data, I noticed that narcissists and psychopaths have a lot in common, and we're going to talk about that tonight. The 10 signs of psychopaths. Most psychopaths are portrayed as a violent, dangerous criminal who lack the ability to feel empathy and remorse. When I say empathy and remorse is when the person has no feelings and no conscience of what he or she is doing. They play victim, and they make out to be the victim all the time. And sometimes that's not the case. You are never the problem. It's always that person with the problem. Now, let's look into the women's perspective. As I looked into the information, they say women psychopaths can be harder to detect because they are more emotional, social, and display fewer antisocial traits than a man. So what are they trying to say? A man has a tendency of where you can see the red flags. You can actually see a lot of traits into a man than a woman. As I started looking into this information, I noticed that the woman is more flexible and easy to hide it than a man. What is a psychopath? A psychopath is a term used to describe someone who has a very severe form of antisocial personality disorder. People with ASPD have social and emotional deficiencies that limit their ability to express emotion or feeling to empathy or remorse for their actions. Why is this important to know what a psychopath is? The individual don't feel remorse, don't feel no emotions whatsoever. When I say this, the definition, they don't own up to their actions. Their actions seems to be always that they're in the right all the time, and that's not the case. Sometimes we need to admit when we do wrongdoing, and that's when they say that a man is better to perceive than a woman. As we go further into the information, you're going to see that we're going to have a wonderful dialogue. I have a good friend that will be coming in, a professional that graduated from college, and will be joining us to talk about this situation. Because of these deficiencies, psychopaths are more likely to become violent and abusive and are very considered some of the most dangerous people in society. When I say a narcissist is different from a psychopath, narcissist is controlling. A narcissist is a victim player. A narcissist never sees what they're doing wrong, compared to a psychopath where they have a tendency of using other individuals to do their wrongdoing on both sides. One of the symptoms is they develop a relationship with their victims. And this can be related to domestic violence. It can be related to trauma, to mental issues. And we'll never know, how would I say this, put into words. Well, we haven't really determined why certain people or individuals have mental health. And I will get into that information furthermore. So they develop relationships with their victims. One of the traits of a female psychopath is their tendency to form a relationship with the person they victimize. So a woman would pick their victim, most likely abused verbally or physically, while male psychopaths usually target strangers. Females are more likely to victimize people they know. And victimization is in all shapes and forms. So that's number one. They have a hard time developing relationships, and when they do develop relationships, normally they choose their victims. It's sad to say. Two, they use indirect forms of aggression. Female psychopaths are just as aggressive as males, but they just use different, easy, direct form of aggression. While male psychopaths are prone to physical aggression, female psychopaths usually rationalize aggressive, like gossiping, excluding people, or forming alliance against someone. Some may even threaten to self-harm in order to manipulate people. This second one is a little, alarming when they phrase using alliance. 9 out of 10 is, like I said from the beginning, they use a lot of manipulation. We have a lot of people that are good with that, And be very mindful, manipulation is done in many, many ways. And you have to pick up, like I always say, with the red flags. Number 3, they play the victim card as one of the unique traits. Female psychopaths, their tendency is to present themselves as the victim in order to get attention, pity, or emotional manipulate to get what they want. As females, sometimes, I'll exclude myself out of that scenario. But they do have a tendency, women do have a tendency of getting what they want. It's a shame to say that we no longer have Dr. James, but we used to dialogue, and one time he did tell me a situation that he went through where, and I know he's going to allow me to mention that tonight on my podcast, where he had a female that were asking for car, money, purses in order to get sex. And if he would not give that stuff up, which is material stuff, he would not get none that night. And I kind of laughed because I said, wow, it took material stuff to get her in the sack, which is absolutely wrong if you have to use material stuff. And I told him that night that when that usually happens is that there's no self-respect. There's no love in the situation when you have to go to that extreme. And I told him to leave that woman alone, that he was more worthy of being loved by someone that was going to look at him because of his personality, because of his traits, not because of what she wanted. When you enter in the relationship and you want certain items and you use that as a tactic, I would leave that person alone. That's not the person you should have in your life. Number 4, they can't hold in their anger for long. Now, psychopaths can be calm. I disagree with that. Cool and calculated. I agree with that. But female psychopaths have a harder time controlling their anger. They are more irritable and prone to anger and outbursts. Females feel relieved after they lash out. Sometimes you have to lash out when you're going to tell the truth. It depends how you're going to do it. I don't mean lashing out is with fists or disrespecting, but be top-notch, honest of what you're going to say. Sometimes it's hard for the individuals on both sides to hear the truth because they play the defensive side, they play the victim, they play, I didn't do this, what are you talking about? But you're dead on point on what you're saying. If they don't get the message, then they are the problem. You're not the problem. 5, they usually use deceptive tactics to get what they want. 5 was absolutely wonderful for me to read because as I was writing this down and reading it, I rationalized that there's a lot of relationships that have these type of situations. While men psychopaths are more violent and direct in taking what they want from people, female psychopaths tend to rely more on deceptions. It works both ways. I'm not agreeing with this because it works absolutely both ways. Clear example to that explanation, more common for female psychopaths to be arrested for fraud or extortion rather than physical or sexual assault, unlike a male psychopath. So what they're stating is if a female does fraud or extortion, they'll go to jail for that rather than physical contact, physical assault. Make sense. I think all the above should be an arrest issue, but that's what the data says, and may I agree with it? Absolutely not. Number 6, they want acceptance but sabotage the relationship. What does sabotage mean? Usually they look for odds, the blame game, going back to the victim. They never do anything wrong. Psychopath women are often more social, and some have a true desire to be accepted by people. This tendency here of looking for attention and trying to go about it is totally wrong. If you can't be yourself, then why try to look for acceptance and validation from people? That's a no-no. We have to understand that when we are in a relationship and someone does not validate you, someone doesn't recognize you, then something that I learned on Friday, which everybody congratulated me last Wednesday, and there was something that stuck in my head that Councilwoman Larissa Mim said. When they do not congratulate you, learn to congratulate yourself every single day. Feel fantastic every single day. Never look for someone to tell you. Always look. One of my main focus was years ago, I had an issue looking in the mirror. And that was a testimony that I had said long ago where I was with an individual and where he told me I was ugly. I wasn't going to amount to anything. Why I go to school is wasting my time. I need to be home cooking and cleaning. Anytime I tried to do any of these things, there was always an argument. And I always had a problem looking in the mirror because I had a tendency of believing what he said. It stuck on me every single day because he said it every single day. Thank God I left the individual, happily divorced, knock on wood. And I had a good friend that told me, are you going to believe everything he says? One day look in the mirror and realize and look at yourself and see if what you see there is what you like, and see if what you're seeing, is there something wrong. The first time I did that, I realized that I was not what he said I was. I looked in the mirror at first. I looked back and didn't like what I became. and what I allow him for me to become. And I changed that. And I started looking and seeing I like what I'm looking back at. And every time, now the mirror stares back at me, people. I have to say that if I look at the mirror one more time, I think it's going to crack because I like what I see. I validate myself. I tell myself I'm pretty. I tell myself I'm not going to allow a man, and a woman can do that too to a man, but I would never allow, in my perspective, anyone to tell me what I can't do, what I'm not capable of doing, how do I look. If you don't tell me I'm pretty, I don't need you to tell me I'm pretty. If you don't address me of how I look, I don't need you to tell me. If I take classes, I don't ask permission. I do it because everything I do, it's for me. It's for my gratification. It's for my growth. And I learned that through just looking in the mirror. And not that I'm looking that if I was to see him face to face and acknowledge the fact to tell him everything you said back in the past, it's none of the above. I don't need to see the individual to tell him what have I become, because I became the person I am today because of my strength, because of my possibility, believing in myself and not looking for validation. When we are born, and that's something I implicated in my head, when we are born naked. Our parents clothe us. But when we get as adults, we go on our own and we have to work for what we want and accomplish what we want. And that's us. No one does that but us. So it took me a while to learn that I couldn't let people downgrade me, to minimize me, humiliate me, and tell me I was incapable of doing none of the above. I thank God for his strength. I thank God for my faith. And I absolutely thank God for the woman that I became. And through my tragedy, I help women, men, and youth now to get out of relationships that are unhealthy, that are not positive, because if I went through it, why would I want somebody to go through it? And all is power of the mind. So I thank the higher power for making me who I am today and for me being positive to become the woman I am today and to keep growing and educating myself every single day and learning to love myself first, second, third, and fifth. And if it's a little bit less, maybe someone else, just maybe, but I start with myself first. So when we jump into these situations, sometimes I had a dialogue with someone yesterday and said, well, maybe if you would have looked at his background and maybe if you would have saw more of his family, and the dialogue was a little leading to the theme that I was going to say today. And I told the individual, well, I'm going to talk about psychopaths. It's a little bit like narcissists. And we got into this conversation. It was a male friend. And he says, well, maybe if you got to know the person in the past, families, friends, and stuff like that, maybe you never would have got married. And I said, listen, I had that dialogue about 2 weeks ago with a bunch of my kings and queens here. And not being judgmental, I was open to the conversation. And I told him, listen, sometimes when you jump into a relationship, you don't get to know who the person is from the beginning. You get to know the person towards when you jump into the relationship. And you really see their true colors. And then you basically try. And then you see sometimes it's just not called giving up. It's basically just mindset as to do you want to go further. So as we had the dialogue, I had to say, wait a minute, stop right there. Everything you're saying is absolutely correct, but sometimes we don't get to meet the family, and we don't get to meet the friends right away when you're courting, when you're going out, when you other people might see, maybe you won't see. And like I said, later on in the relationship, you get to see certain things, you let it pass. But then as you see more and more progressive stuff, you start thinking, is this for me? Absolutely not. So our dialogue yesterday, it was more of a disagreement because I said, hold up, wait a minute. You're talking to a woman that does a podcast, and we discuss relationship, we discuss trauma, we discuss different angles of stuff that happened. And I said, and I got to disagree with you right there. And how can you possibly tell me that we got to look into the person's past? I am not no detective or no FBI, and you can't possibly tell me that when you get in a relationship with a woman, you look at that background first. If you can honestly say you look at that background, kudos. I don't believe it, but that dialogue that we had yesterday, it almost got it to a tit and tat, and I had to tell him, well, we're no judgmental. I can agree and disagree with you, but I honestly have to say I gotta disagree. Not every person I date or I see, I'm gonna look into their background. You don't get to see that until he proposes or the relationship gets a little stronger. Then you start seeing, you're not going to question the family like, listen, how is this individual? I don't see myself as, I can ask it now with the experience and the knowledge I have. I look with a fine-tooth comb what I'm getting myself into, what can I accept, what I don't accept, and you got to like learn to change it up. Life is about changes, people, and we got to learn. I have looked at different affirmations, different memories and stuff that has me backtrack and look further more. Not that I'm saying I don't trust. Sometimes I have trust issues, and that just comes with the field, and it's something normal. I had someone that actually told me to my face, you have trust issues. I said, well, if you live through what I lived through, you certainly will. What pumps me to succeed a lot in life is just pushing myself to the limit, because you have that mindset that the person is not like rooting for you, the person is not encouraging you, the person is not supporting you. So you have to pump yourself and just push yourself out there and say, yes, you can, yes, you can. I don't like no one telling me I give up because I can't do it. That's not in my vocabulary. I don't give up. I try. I do a lot of self-care when I try to do the stuff that I want to succeed, because I want to grow in every angle. And like I said, this and narcissists do go hand in hand. And that dialogue I had with the individual yesterday almost had me, from the top of my head, like, listen, dude, we've spoken various times. There's no way you can tell me you check every chick out with the family, friends, a neighbor. You can't tell me that. And I just started laughing. I said, if you do that, okay, kudos. I don't do that. I really don't. But you get to see in relationships, outings and stuff like that, when the person starts, changing and not the same way. And then you take drastic extremes of how to change. Do the individuals have sign of those tendencies of what I'm talking tonight? Absolutely, yes. That's where I'm going to come with the number 8. They get other people to do their dirty work. We have individuals that they will say they're going to do something, but they get somebody else to do it. A female psychopath is better at forming strategy relationships to get the person to do things for them, especially the dirty work. They won't do it themselves. Why they won't do it themselves? Because they want to play the innocent later on, and the scapegoat is the person that did the deed. So in that trait, the woman has more tendency of being more out there and more deceiving. Number 9, they are emotionally unstable. In life, we deal with a lot of people, in situations that I get to and I speak to people. Unstable is very, very hard to deal with. Research shows women psychopaths are more likely to struggle with depression symptoms and mood problems, and also more likely to struggle with anger and jealousy than a male. I think it goes both ways. Now, number 10, they are good at pretending. Psychopaths and sociopaths both can use superficial charm, charisma to lure people closer to them, but women may be better at this than a man. For example, a man's psychopath's tendencies display narcissists, but female psychopaths often seem friendly, charming, and even passive at first. That's a prime example for number 10. When I say that I can include narcissists and psychopaths together, is that both have the traits, both have the sample, both have the charm. You have people with their charm and being friendly that will lure you. You have to learn how to seek those, I call them red flags. I'm going to call all these things as red flags. When we had this conversation before, you have to see when the person changes a lot. Absolutely, you see the signs, and you have to pick up on it. Only you are the person to know if you're going to deal with that situation. And like I said, I'm going to have my good friend Brian soon coming up here. We debate, but we have an awesome debate all the time. I am absolutely amazed by his, charm and intelligence, and where he can enlighten me. Sometimes I can be a little difficult. When I say difficult, is that I'm not saying I always have to be right, but when you put these two together, it's absolutely very, very dangerous. There was a situation that happened, and I think you might have known this happened, I think 2 weeks ago. My heart breaks because of that situation. And some people might say it's mental health. I don't think it's mental health, but I put it in this category of psychopath. This woman went on vacation for 10 days, posted all over social media, and left her 11-month-old baby in a playpen for those 10 days. This woman was living her best life on vacation, drinking, clubbing at the beach. The baby died of starvation, feces in the playpen, urine in the playpen. And when she was finally caught and was processed in the court system, she showed no remorse. The judge was appalled and horrified of her actions. When she was sentenced, when she was given life in jail, that's when she broke down. When she broke down, her exact words, as I was looking eye to eye on the television, was she feels bad that she left the baby in the house under those conditions. Let me take you back. Let's say we're in this baby's position. We're that child, and she went for 10 days. Imagine the grief, the crying, the loneliness, the hunger, actually being in her own feces, no one changing her 11-month-old baby, no one able to help her while you're drinking, dancing, having a good time. And the whole time she was talking, I was thinking in my head, Father God, enlighten my brain. Don't let me feel what I feel for this woman right now as I'm watching her crying when she was sentenced. Not the aftermath, not that when she was given the descriptions, photos of her child in the playpen, the beautiful face of that baby, and the aftermath that she was shown what the baby's condition was. And this is your child, a child that you birthed. If you couldn't afford a babysitter, cling to your family. But for her to apologize what she did to that baby, if you don't want somebody to know what you're doing, don't post it on Facebook. Like I said, this woman was living her best life for 10 days, drinking, clubbing, at the beach, and you left your 11-month-old baby in a playpen, starving. 10 days. Try to go at least one day without eating, or even 2. And imagine that baby, what she went through. Not being able to change her diaper, the irritation from the urine, probably the irritation from the feces. And then when you're shown these pictures that this is your child that you left for 10 days, and you decide to cry when the judge sentenced you to life in jail. But you didn't cry during the process when they were showing you these pictures. You cried when the judge sentenced you after where he said that this was the most horrific case, horrifying case that he ever came about, because it had to do with an 11-month-old baby. That child is not here no more. That child died of suffering because the lack of a woman that decided to go on vacation. I can't say that's mental health. That's a psychopath way of thinking of yourself, selfishness, and to actually do that and then cry. Can you imagine life in prison and that they all know because you left your 11-month baby in a playpen? That day I had mixed feelings. I thought to myself, how can an individual do that? I would never do that to my child. If I'm not able to take vacation, hey, kudos, I don't take it. But we live in times that people think about themselves and don't think about others. They hurt other people, but they don't think about that situation. So when I read into this psychopath situation, the signs of empathy and remorse, this woman had no remorse, no empathy, no feeling whatsoever. And this child is no longer here. Absolutely beautiful, beautiful little baby. Beautiful little girl, may she rest in peace. And to me, I thought life in jail was a slap in the, I don't believe in the electric chair, but to me it was like a slap in the face, because you're going to be alive, you're going to be eating, you're going to be sleeping, you're going to be walking, and your child is no longer here, because I hope the 10 days of vacation serve the need of what you're going to go through now in jail. But we never think of what the consequences of our actions, of what we do. So when I thought about this topic tonight, sometimes we have people that are violent. We have people that are dangerous. We have people that are manipulated. We have people that have no remorse. We have people with no empathy, no emotions. We have people that live their lives thinking it's just them and their surroundings don't matter. So we have to think sometimes that you got to change that situation. You got to look for certain peace. You got to look for certain meditation to deal with that stress, that problem, so it doesn't create those thoughts in your head. We have people that think stuff that they're going to do and hurt people that never did anything to you. Some people don't even do anything to you, but you're already conniving and looking for ways what to do to that person. And it shouldn't be. You know, it shouldn't be. I cling myself to God when I see certain situations like this. I'm blessed to say I have 3 beautiful children and 3 awesome grandbabies that I would go to bat for them.
This is Brian, Francesca. Good evening to you and everyone out in podcast.
Good evening. Welcome. Thank you so much.
I just walked in the house, so I'm going to put you on speaker and just listen for a while till I decompress out of some of these clothes.
I did spoke highly that I said you was coming up here. You're a heavy hitter in dialogue of what we're going to talk. I already said the 10 signs of the psychopath. I will be, repeating.
Oh, boy, not the psychopath.
Yeah, so I was saying the symptoms of, the people don't feel remorse or empathy, no emotion, they're antisocial. So we're going to have a good dialogue. Is this good?
Absolutely. So I'm going to just decompress out of some of these clothes. I'm going to keep my ears open and let you do what you do.
Thank you so much, and I expect your... Go ahead, sweetheart. Come on,
I was
Queen.
waiting for you to take a break from your story. That's an awesome and interesting story. This is Adrian, by the way.
Hi, sweetheart.
And, yes, I didn't have... I usually have Bible study at this time, but they canceled it today. And I thank God, because I came in right on time, I think. And
thank you so much, Queen. Thank you for coming on.
That is the ultimate example of narcissistic behavior. And only time, like you said, she felt any emotions is in the courtroom, and the emotion didn't seem towards the baby. It's probably because of what she knows, what she has coming ahead of her, you know.
Absolutely.
And they don't think about narcissistic and the psychopathic, I heard you call. And sometimes that's the behaviors. They can't imagine what the other person is feeling. They can't put themselves in the other person's shoes, even though that person is a baby and depends on her every day to change her, to clean her, to feed her. And when those things you can't comprehend that stuff, how can you feel bad about leaving a baby behind? Well, why didn't she? Why didn't she climb out the crib, the playpen, and find something to eat? You know, and that's the kind of thinking. It sounds crazy, but people actually think like that.
Yes,
you know.
Absolutely. And you know what, Adrian? As I was watching the proceedings, I want you to know that when the judge said it was one of the most horrific cases he had to face on with, as he was telling her how disgusted he felt, how horrific he felt of the situation, how she went on vacation and was living her best life. And he's mentioning to her how there's photos that were on Facebook where she went to the bar, she went, drinking on the beach, having her best life, and you posted this while your child was in the playpen, going through it. And it didn't hit her, like you said, it didn't hit her right there when he was doing that open discussion. It hurt her when he said that he has no other choice than to give her life in jail for what she did and not showing no remorse or no empathy until the pictures came up. Like, I was like, OMG, we are adults, and we are going to go in the next generation when we turn seniors, where we might go to diapers and stuff like that. I work in that field where I see people do that, and for an adult to be in diapers and, they do what they do and have to be cleaned and taken off in that instant, a baby is such a responsibility. And we're talking about an 11-month-old baby, which he addressed and said, you left your 11-month-old baby in the playpen where she didn't eat. She was suggested in that playpen with feces, with urine, probably they move around in the playpen and stuff. And it was like around her body. And when she was hit with life in jail, that's when, Adrian, she cried.
That's when
and
she
was
felt
saying, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, but how? This is your child. We're all women. I carried my kids for 9 months. I carried my son 7 months, and it hurts to have a child.
Yeah.
And your role is to protect them and not hurt them. And I would never, I don't think ever, I decided that I dedicated my life to my kids, and I did what I had to do when they were grown. But when they were children, I dedicated my time to them. So there was not leaving them alone. I couldn't, because you know what? In a fraction of a second, they could turn on the stove, a fire, and because I'm out clubbing, I come back and the house is burned down with my 3 children. How do I overcome that situation? Because I wanted to have a good time with friends. No, that was never me. I've known of people that have done it, and I said, you know what, Father God, I hope when you come home, nothing happened to that child, because, we have teenagers that, this new generation, I don't want to stay home. Nobody wants to watch them. It's okay. I give them a bottle. They'll sleep through the night, and I'll be home. It's not like that. We have to be mindful and very careful. May she rest in peace. I saw the pictures. I wanted to cry because I said, wow, you're no longer here. And now, you're going to be able to live.
And she still had some freedoms.
Yeah. She's going to be able to live, breathe, eat, sleep, but you have the torment. If you have any remorse or any emotion, you're going to have to think the rest of your days while you're in there what you did to your daughter. Your daughter, because of a 10-day vacation. I hope those 10-day vacations was something good for you, because reality sat in where they got you, and now the reality sat in where you're going to jail for the rest of your life, because of your neglect. You know, and it's horrifying to see, you know, something like this. And when I started doing my topic, you know, it falls into the category where, you know, in life we deal with situations that some people don't have remorse for things they do. Empathy, you know, they have no emotion, no feelings of whatever when they hurt someone, no acknowledgement until reality sits in.
Not to cut you off, Francesca, but from my studies and understanding of psychopaths, if you do the history of most of them are traumatized themselves from their childhood. Something went wrong somewhere in their childhood, and they grow into this type of no feelings, no empathy. It's not something normal. It's a learned behavior because they're trying to survive whatever it is that they're traumatized from. And unfortunately, these things are coming to the forefront now, and we got to deal with it as a society. We can no longer ignore mental health because when people don't deal with trauma coming from their childhood and they grow into teenagers and adults, when they don't deal with this, it affects their mental. And so we have to just be aware as adults. If we see anything, especially when it comes to our kids, if there's anything that we see, even if we're not the parent, we got to say something.
No, absolutely.
Can I
go
respond?
ahead, Adrian. Yeah, go ahead.
How you doing, sir? I don't know you. My name is Adrian. I've been a domestic violence specialist for 20 years. I've been a mental health specialist for 17 years. So I've seen both sides. And you're right. Most of the time when people treat their child like this, it's learned behavior from when they were a child, and they have that child. We had a case in Florida where DCF came right in to a woman that had a baby because they knew that her background, because she's been in and out of the hospital as a teenager,
yes, ma'am.
being abused in her home. So they immediately went through the court and had her baby removed from her, and ordered her to go to counseling before they let her go home. So I have a problem with, if you know this is the background of the mother and have any concerns, and yes, you know, you don't have to wait until something happens to go into court, which is what these people did, and say, we're concerned because this is her background. She has zero patience, and already she had snatched that baby and threw her down in the crib because she was crying, and we're concerned.
Yes.
You know, so you can do something about it beforehand.
Yes.
I've seen where DCF has...
And what did you say your name is, Miss Adrian?
Yes, that's exactly it. I've seen
Miss Adrian, listen, unfortunately, you are so correct. Unfortunately, the laws are so that something has to happen in order for someone to really step in. Like you said, the lady has a clear case of mental issues, probably from her childhood, trauma that she didn't deal with, and unfortunately the system, the laws hasn't caught up to what's common sense, because it's clear a person of that caliber shouldn't be allowed to raise a baby. I mean, and I'm not trying to say that later on she might not be a good parent,
right?
But we have to deal with these issues. Yeah,
but and in Florida they have a situation where if you got that kind of a background, they won't take the baby from you, but they make it so that you have to go to counseling. Because I was also a certified parenting coach, and you have to go to counseling. And DCF is basically watching you, you know, and they're watching to make sure, you know, if the child has any marks, unexplained marks or something. So I like that. It's not like that here in Jersey. You can do anything.
No.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Unfortunately, you are correct. In this era in New Jersey, unfortunately, it's so many kids that end up dead. And the sad part is that when you do the history on the child who's dead, the caseworkers have so many incidents written up already to the point that you say to yourself, why in the world was this child still in their care? It's an overload of the system. It's not enough workers. People are exhausted, tired, and we that are in these communities have to just be more vigilant. And the only thing I know that can really help is that if we see something that we know is not correct, somebody need to say something, and that's just what it is.
Oh, absolutely, and I agree. Yeah, I agree with you both, and what Adrian says is absolutely, I agree, Brian, just like you did. There's a lot of different states that have different laws. Like in Patterson, I have to say, I did a training. And one of the trainings was the diapers. And actually, I went into a home where the lady wasn't at it, but look at the difference. She acknowledged that she fed her child. She fed her child, didn't keep the place up to par, but she made sure that her child ate all the time. But this is something where her child was suggested to, which not knowing because the child was young, I would say like 4 or 5. Now kids, this new generation, they know what heroin, coke, and marijuana is at a young age, even where they came from, even when they came from the birthing. And when I saw this, no judgmental or nothing, I would ask the mom, like, listen, why wouldn't you try to beat the habit because of your child? I see you still are a good mother. And mind you, she fed her child, always had her bathed, beautiful little girl, always had her bathed, her hair done. But this is the living condition, this baby, and I still say baby because I think she was 4 or 5. These were the conditions that the baby was day in and day out. And it was sad to see. Very, very sad to see. And like I said, no judgmental. My training was to always talk to her and stuff. And she would say, I love my child, but the addiction is so strong and it just takes over me, the need for me to do that, but I would never harm my child. A success story, I have to say that down the road, I kept track with her, and she cleaned herself up. She went on to college. She got a degree. They moved out of the environment undisclosed where she lives at, because I know, and it's a better environment with her child. Her child now is in her teens, and she got out of that situation. But I never said, beat it, stop it, let me take you here. I always mentored and spoke to her, and she got out of that situation. Sometimes you don't, because we have some children that live in, with parents that have alcohol addiction, drug addiction, and they're beaten on and stuff, and their school is the outlet to that environment they live at. And and I have to praise children that beyond that situation, they still love their parents. They still love their parents no matter what. But here they see that situation, and it's like Brian just said, until something happens, that's when they take over. We shouldn't have to wait to that point.
Right.
In this situation with this 11-month-old baby, I'm trying to figure out, was she in a house? Was she in an apartment? Was there anybody in the surroundings? Because you got to hear a baby crying all hours of the night. Mm-hmm. And I'm not blaming the neighbors or nothing, but someone had to hear that child crying every single day and not intercept. Where I live at, I hear everything. I hear the cars go boom. I hear like an accident. I look out the window, and if I can help and run down the stairs and call 911, I certainly will. I won't close the window and say, oh, that's you're on your own. That's not me. If I see something, I try to do something. But it's for me hard to believe that wherever she was living at, I'm trying to figure out, was there anybody in that surrounding that can't possibly tell me you couldn't hear this child crying day in and day night, and not say, listen, there's something going on. This child is constantly crying. Whether it was in an apartment or wherever, there had to be some surroundings. Not blaming the neighbors, because we have neighbors that they see something and won't get involved. But sometimes,
or Francesca, unfortunately, we live in a society where people like to not care.
Exactly.
You know, the society we live in today has the motto, it's not my business, stay out of it. And listen, with adults, okay. But when it comes to kids, we got to understand that kids cannot defend themselves.
Absolutely.
So we have to say something. We have to say something. I know some people think it's getting into somebody else's business, but when it comes to kids who cannot defend themselves, and I know somebody in the surrounding where the lady lived hear this baby. Somebody has to hear it. And we, when it comes to kids, we have to do something. They can't defend themselves, you know. Anyway, that's just my perception on it, and I'm gonna let the lady continue to talk.
Yeah, but I was gonna say to you, and you said somebody had to hear. If it's a typical neighborhood, somebody went to somebody else. You know that baby been in that house crying all day. I think she let them live by herself, and they sit outside and talk about it. But nobody calls an authority. But they don't want to get involved in the way. But I don't have a problem. I'll get involved. You know.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to walk to my neighbor and talk about baby's been crying for 3 days, day and night, and I hear her all the time. And I think her mother went out of town. You know, I'm not going to talk to the neighbor. I'm going to say that to the DCF worker or to the family worker that the police send out or somebody.
No, absolutely, Adrian. I'm just like you.
I think we have a duty.
No, we do. And I think it was a couple of months ago, I explained an incident that I involved myself in where everybody was like, you're crazy, but I'm glad you did it. I went to the laundromat to do a good face for my patient on Broadway here in Patterson. And as I was washing his clothes, I heard an altercation outside the laundromat. This man was beaten. I don't know if it was his girlfriend at the time. I just saw him hitting on her. Anybody that walked on Broadway know that the sidewalk is cement, and he was pounding her on the pavement, and there was a garbage can he was throwing. And let me tell you something. There were men out there. And instead of recording this situation, why did not one person call 911? I'm looking at this man pounding her, kicking her, and there was a bunch of men out there. And I came out, and I was like, oh, hell no. No, this is what I represent. It's domestic violence. I got my phone. I started calling 911, and I said, listen, I need police to come here. I gave them the address of the laundromat. I said, there is a man literally beating this woman to a pulp. And the audacity of a man looking at me, asking me what I'm doing, I said, I'm calling 911 and I'm speaking to the dispatcher because I'm not going to stand here and watch this man beat her up. But I didn't think, Adrian, of the situation where I left the laundromat. I stayed on the street of Broadway where there was about 12 men standing there looking and recording this, and the man beating her. And as I'm saying that in my podcast that day, everybody was like, that was a bold move, but a dangerous move because, Francesca, you could have went inside and called 911 and nobody would know and it was you, but you physically went out of the laundromat and called and stood there and did this where the man could retaliate and try to hurt me in the process because the woman already was on the floor bleeding out of her head. Thank God the cops came, the ambulance came, and I had an altercation with an individual that said, what are you doing? I said, calling 911 because if you guys are recording and y'all not going to call, I'm going to call because I'm not going to stand here and watch this man beat her to the point that he kills her. Imagine getting your head slammed into the cement of the sidewalk 3-4 times.
And all y'all want to do is videotape.
And videotaping, this man is literally kicking her while she's down. The fences couldn't fight back. And I'm looking at him like, dude, if you don't get out of my face, you're not going to rip the phone out of my hand. And I called 911. They came. They got her. I don't know the status. I hope what I did, she's okay. They arrested the individual. And I took my little happy butt back in the laundry and proceeded to do what I was doing. But when I mentioned that the podcast, everybody was like, thank God you did what you did. But be very mindful and be very careful when you do that, because you could have done it inside the laundry. Of course, I'm not thinking about it, because when your blood pressure is pumping, in your blood and you're drilling and then you see this, you don't think at that moment what you're doing because you want to help that person. But later on when I dialogued, I said, oh, my God, I did a crazy move. I said, they could have jumped me, or that guy could have took my phone out of my hand, or even, all thoughts started coming to my head. But at the end of the day, I didn't think about that. I thought about what, and thank God they didn't, because I said, when you're covered with God, I walked out of that laundromat and I was like, God, I am going to call 911 right now, because I ain't going to watch this man beat her up. And when your faith is so strong in God, I always say no weapons formed against you. I walked out and I said, what, I'm going to call 911. And I did. They took her and they arrested him. But as I walked back into the laundromat, I looked at every individual that was recording, and I just said, wow, that could have been your mom. That could have been your sister. That could have been your cousin. Would you have allowed something like that? And I always say, we are the problem. If I had not come out of that laundromat, he could have killed her, and everybody that was recording would have been fine with that. So I have a problem with that situation, that we, as people, when we see that, we're ready to flip that phone, and it takes another incident. Allow me to throw another incident. This was on Washington Street. I think that Brian knows, is a couple of blocks down from Darrell. There was a lady passed out. Like, she looked like, heavy-duty drugs. I touched her, and I said, are you okay? The woman was non-responsive, but she had a pulse. And here you saw people recording, and I'm like, my God, what is this? This woman literally could be dying, and everybody's recording.
Unfortunately, the society we live in today, it's just it's upside down.
Brian, it's crazy. Not to cut you off.
To help, they rather record, like the lady said earlier. They rather talk about it outside with their neighbors or whatever, but nobody wants to step in and do anything. So I just believe in my heart that God has some people out here, myself, you, Francesca, the lady on the phone, and a lot of others of us, that we are going to have to be the ones to stand up for what's right. It might cause us to get in trouble, but I'm a firm believer that whenever you stand for righteousness, you will always come out on top. So we're going to have to do it, and we're going to have to let God be God and just do what's required, because it's clear that what's going on out here, it's not right, and somebody got to take a stand, and it might as well be the people of faith.
No, absolutely, Ryan. And you know what? When I did that day, I waited till 911. The ambulance came. I told them, I don't know the lady or nothing, but I just stood here and I see that she probably overdosed. They checked her out. They took her. And the ambulance came by me, the guy, the EMT, and said, you know what? Thank you so much, for even calling and caring enough to stay with her until we arrived. And his exact words was, we need more people like you, because you have other individuals that they rather record, put it up on Facebook, and have people commenting like, oh, my God, and da-da-da. So you know what? I did the aftermath. I did in reverse. I put the situation covering her face. And I said, listen, I just saved this woman's life while others were recording, and the ambulance came on.
The end of it.
Yes, and recording. And I said, in society right now, we waste time in recording, and those are precious moments to try to save someone's life at that moment. And I said, and I'm in disagreement in someone recording when someone is in that situation and other situations that I see. And I think I know in my heart I did the right thing. And I post this covering her face because I believe in confidentiality, but I believe in also acknowledging that we have to stop recording, and we see something, do something. You are going to be blessed when you help that individual. Have I walked away, who knows, she would have passed away, and someone, posted it up like there's another druggie or whatever, like they usually do. I do different, and I don't care what backlash I get, but I always say I think they're banning now that if you record an incident, you will be charged.
And report it and not report it, yeah.
Yep. Keep in mind now that they're trying to sign a law that if you record an incident that's happening, anything violent, and they retrieve and it comes from your phone, you will be charged just like the perpetrator that did the. So go ahead now and pop your phone and record unless you do something about the situation, which is different. So if that law is implicated, I'll be the one that'll be like, hoo-ha, great, because the stuff that I'm seeing nowadays, I'll be like, wow, you're going to record like you think this is like a movie or something, and we don't realize we have family, we have kids. Do we want somebody doing that to our children? I would prefer somebody to help my child, to help my friend, instead of you sitting there recording that go viral, whatever. What are you doing? What's your purpose? You are part of the problem instead of being the solution. You know, so I'm in disagreement when I see someone doing that, and I have no problem hugging someone because you don't know if that person needs that hug. I mean, I work on Broadway. I work in the Godwin area. I'm proud to say it's not a good area, but I probably walk the streets and I say hi to anybody. I don't care if you're high, you're drunk, because they are human beings, and we don't know what they went through. We don't know. We can't judge. I've been there. I was homeless at the age of 16 and pregnant. I was homeless. And that's another testimony as to how that happened. And I don't judge no one. I see a situation of sleeping in the streets 2 days, not being able to eat, bathe, especially pregnant. And when you see situations like that, I embrace life and I say, thank you, God. Thank you, God. And if someone asks me, I'm hungry, I want a coffee, I'll take them inside margaritas. I'll be like, listen, order what you want. Because you know what? The blessings are going to come from above. And I don't take a picture and say, listen, I just bought, like some people do. I did that. The one hand doesn't have to know the other hand what I did at a dignity. That person is a person. And sometimes we need to do that. I may not be rich, but if one day I can bless somebody, I'll do it, because think of you one day not being able to eat because you don't have it. That individual is the same way, but every single day, 7 days a week. And sometimes we have to be mindful and not judge and say, oh, why are you doing that? Why not? Just because you don't do it, don't stop me from doing it. That's a human being. That's somebody's mother, sister, brother, whoever that probably didn't get to that situation because they wanted to. We have people that lost their jobs. We have people that were abused as a child. We have people that were beaten. So I talk to these individuals. Listen, I'm boots on the ground. So I've talked to drug dealers like, wouldn't you prefer to have a job? And they tell me, Queen, you know what? I've been to jail back and forth. No one will give me a job. This is the only thing I can do to put food on the table. Am I going to judge a drug dealer? Okay, you're pushing drugs, but am I going to, judge them? No. You putting food on the table is not how I think you should do it, but that's their only way. But they're not out there robbing. They're not out there stealing because they can't get a job because of their record. It doesn't make them a bad person. They told me, listen, I'll drop this right now if you give me a job. I've given them information. I've spoken to re-entry programs and said, listen, I have an individual that want to leave this and enter into the job field. And some have done it. But you got to take the time to listen to somebody. But no, we got to point and say they're pushers. That's what they want to do. No, you talk to anyone out there in the streets. They don't want to be there. That's their only choice. And people call me crazy. Oh, I saw you talking to. No. If you saw me talking to that person, I was asking why. Where's their second option? And they will talk to you because I don't look at them as a pusher. I look at them as a person. And they see me every day. Hey, Mommy, how you doing? What's up? Now, you think somebody would hurt me in the street? They'd be like, no, that's Mommy that's going to go take care of Joshua. Nobody better mess with her. But if I was arrogant and stupid and said, oh, here's a pusher. Let me get away from her and cross the street. I don't do that, people. I don't do that. I don't judge anybody. I don't do that. So
Permission to speak?
yes.
Hi. When I see something happen, I usually always call the police, especially when it's a crowd of people. And usually I find out, oh, yeah, we're working on it, which is good. But I usually call anyway because it's like escalating. I tell people, just call. You don't even have to tell people you're calling. Just call.
Right.
You know?
Absolutely.
Another thing I do, like for women with children, like in Europe, I know they have parenting classes for future mothers and fathers is mandatory. And I think that's something they should have over here so they can teach the parents. They can't handle it, what to do. They teach them all that stuff. And I think that's something they need to teach over here. If you're going to be a parent, the mother and the father has to go to a parenting class so they can see how serious it is to be a parent. And when you have difficulties.
States, but the court usually tears it down, saying they don't have a right to order mothers. But I think they do, and they should have a right.
Yeah, I think they do too.
Not just mothers and fathers. Because when I did parenting, I had fathers ordered to my classes as well as mothers. But because the concept is, if the father is there and the mother is being abusive, you need to take those classes too, to know that it's not the proper way to raise a child. You know.
Well, I don't see any problems with it, especially the mother and the father. They should say, okay, yeah, we'll do it, because it's only going to help the child and them, how to be a parent, what happens if something goes wrong, where to go. They need to know those things. A lot of these parents don't, have kids don't know where to go.
No.
Make a list of people who you can depend on, in your family that's credible. Your mother might not be credible. Find an aunt or somebody else, Give them
Absolutely.
options.
No, absolutely. And where you're from?
I'm from New York.
Okay, thank you so much for connecting in. Yeah, you're absolutely right, and I'm in agreement. We used to have, I was a young mother, but that's a testimony that I'll say later on what happened because I didn't choose to be a mom at the age of 16. But the responsibility fell, and I did an awesome job. But we had a center called Parenthood where they taught you, what to do, how to feed the baby, change the baby, how to release stress, being like a first timer, getting up hours of the night, because they have their moments, 2 o'clock feeding, 4 o'clock feeding. And we had that program here in Patterson. It's no longer here in Patterson. It needs to be here, absolutely. But I learned from that program so much, and I grew so much from that program. And I continue to bring my child, at a very young age, as he started, the little step walks and stuff like that. And they were telling me this is what's going to happen. And then potty training. So all that stuff, those services were given to me at that time. I hated to see down the road as the years passed, it closed down, but it was something that was much needed because they had parenting class, not only for mothers, single mothers, they had even fathers, they had, individually and then couples, and you got to know their faces as you went to different classes and different stages of what to do as the baby stages kept going up and up and up. And I learned from that, from that center. And like I said, it's sad that it's no longer here. But what you said is much needed. There's a lot of services that we don't have and we absolutely need.
Those classes are very much needed. The classes that I did and they sent me to training, special training for the grandparents class. And I had grandparents who got custody of their young grandchildren. The grandchildren was anywhere from 2 to 5 years old. And the class was so very much needed. And again, it was only court ordered. Like if DCF was involved and was putting these babies in grandma's custody, grandma has to go to my parenting class. And they would argue with me. I said, you yelling at the child, and he's looking at you like, huh? The child don't know what you're saying. He know what I'm talking about. He's just hard-headed. And that was the mindset of a lot of the parents. I'm not saying the young parents didn't think like this, but the grandparents thought like that. That baby is smart. That baby understands what I'm saying. He just don't want to listen to me. Or she's just hard-headed. And they get that in that head, and they figure that the physical punishment is necessary because that's the only thing she responds to. Yeah, I'm 50 years old. I respond to somebody hitting me before I respond to them talking to me. You know, telling me something in another language, and I don't understand you, and then you're hitting me and saying it. Okay, now I understand you want me to do something, you know.
Exactly.
And I'm not an infant. So children learn that's, and then you wonder why when they start kindergarten, the teacher's like, he's hitting the other kids. That's what he learned at home.
That's right.
You don't know what I'm saying? Let me slap you. Now, let me see you understand now.
Exactly, Adrian. It may sound funny, but it's absolutely true what you're saying.
Yeah, they would laugh too. You know, they're like, I never thought about that.
Yeah, she's absolutely correct. It's an education problem. It's a lack of not knowing problem. We can't blame the parents. I just believe in my heart that education is gonna help us to get better.
Right.
We have to get people excited about learning again, and once we can get people excited about learning again, I think we can make some points because education is clearly the pathway. I can say that for me, my own life. I thank God I just graduated January of this year for Microsoft 365 computer software.
Okay.
On Monday, I started orientation to go into peer counseling, dealing with mental health, dealing with addictions, dealing with childhood traumas. So I'm learning through my own experiences and education that we can make a difference. We just got to know that these things can be handled through education and not violence. When I was growing up, my parents didn't have education. My father's highest grade was the 5th grade. My mother was the 10th grade. My grandmother was the 3rd. So they didn't have education, but they had discipline. I'm grateful today as a man because it allows me to live within the laws of the land. But a lot of people aren't raised with discipline. A lot of people aren't raised with education. And today we see the results of that. Like Adrian said, that the grandparents, she was trying to teach them, and instead of discipline with hands and violence and curse words, that there's another approach, but they rejected it. So it's a tough job, but we're the chosen ones, so we got to just do it. We just got to do it.
No, absolutely. And you know what? Congratulations again. And congratulations that I know, again, you're going to pass that. Absolutely. I know I took that course, the peer recovery specialist, and it's awesome. But, yes, education is key. Me as a single mom, I raised 2 boys and 1 girl, and the boys were the hardest, but they were bookworms. They were home. They were not allowed to be outside because I said there's nothing outside for you. You are to stay home. When you're grown, you do whatever you want. But while you're under my roof, that I'm paying the rent, putting food and clothes on your back, you do what I say because I know what I was protecting them from. And educational-wise, I can say all of them graduated from high school. I had one that went on to college. Very proud of him, my middle child. And I emphasize that in my grandkids, too. I'm very involved as a grandmother in their education. When I go over, how was school? Did you pass the test? If I see they got one wrong, you know, I said, keep doing it. And I go over the words with my grandson. I go over reading with him because educational for me is fundamental. This new generation now is very hard. There's a lot of screaming, why you doing this? And, you know, and I try to educate because when I was raising my kids, I never put hands on them. Everything was talking. Everything was time out. I took something away from them, whether it was TV, their favorite toy. And that's how I disciplined them. There was no need for me to yell at them. If they did something wrong, I said, come here, why did you do this to your brother? Or why did you throw this? Or why didn't you fix this? It was never yelling. The situations I've seen now is like, okay, I'm going to let you be a parent. But sometimes you got to let them know, like, listen, I didn't raise you like that. You know, try to talk to him. It gets better. You see the rebellion, you get the outlash, you get the disrespect, and he doesn't do it to grandma, but he does it to mom. And I said, that's the aftermath. And then when he grows up, you figure why he does what he does in school or what he does outside in the streets. It all, you know, starts from the home. And I say, I never had an issue. People were like, I don't know how you raised those boys, you know, 32 and 31. And I said, it never gave me a problem when they were little. Now, when they were big, whatever you did, that's your responsibility. That's your task. That's you, because I did my job as a mom. But like I said, it starts from home, and then the education is, to me, key. Reading, to me, is key. We don't, and Brian, I have to say that we don't have that before. Back in the days when I grew up, the library was my hangout spot. I read every book in the library, got that library card. I was always like walking on sunshine when I had it, and I was always doing my book reports in there, and school was my main thing. Like, you know, if I want to get out of the situation, study. Out of the three siblings, I'm the one academically that graduated. My siblings didn't care. They were more like streetwise and influenced by friends. I stayed focused. Academically, I stayed focused because I said, if I want to change and I know I'm going to grow up and fly, I got to fend for myself when I'm grown. And it's absolutely important. I still don't stop educating myself. I'm going to say a little joke here. One time I graduated from, I don't remember what class, and my grandson was a little young when I graduated. And he said, Grandma, how old are you? And I said, why do you want to know? And I think I told him I'm 50 now, people, but I think it was 48 or 49. I think it was last year. And he said, why are you still going to school? You're old. It's me. I'm young. I'm in school right now. And you know what I told him? I said, listen, it's not the age I am. It's because I want to educate myself to educate you down the road. You're learning now because you're little. But education doesn't have a number. I still want to learn and grow and educate myself, not only for myself, but to help others and to help you. So because grandma's a certain age and I still want to go to school, that's not going to stop me. I could still be 60. And if I want to learn a certain trait, what's stopping me? But this is his mindset that if it was said to me, he's very outspoken, and he hears somebody else saying that they're 50 or 51 going to school, they'll be like, no, but it's supposed to be me going to school because I'm 8 years old. But you're old already. And that's, you know, and that's the mindset that
tell you that you're old.
And that's the mindset that he had, and I laughed. Adrian Bryan, I laughed because I said, sweetheart, I'm educating myself to help others, and not only that, to help you. So because grandma's a certain age, that's not going to stop her from going to school. So when I spoke to him and broke it down like that, he saw me graduating from certain classes, he started saying, Grandma, you know what? I want to grow up to be just like you because I like everything you're doing. You know, and something that not broke my heart but made my heart like sing. We were walking one time, and I think it was the Patterson Museum. I took him to an event, and he saw 3 homeless people across the street. He had some sandwiches in his hand, and I say this with my soul a little because when I saw the impact I had on him, he said, you know what, Grandma, I don't want to take these sandwiches home. I said, why not? I see those people over there on the floor. Can I take it to them? I was like, you sure you want to take it to them? He's like, yeah, because they look like they're homeless to me. And I took him across the street. He gave everyone the sandwiches. They looked up at him and said, thank you so much. And then he said, Grandma, you know what? You think one day we can prepare sandwiches and we can go around the city of Patterson and give sandwiches and stuff to the homeless people? And I never said that to him. That just came out of him. And I hugged him and I said, you know what, sweetheart? God bless you. God bless you because you want to help somebody else. And that was just from an event that I took him, and that just came out of him when he was holding that. And I took him across the street. I didn't say, what you going to waste your time going? I took him across the street, and he actually did it. And he was like, here, I want you guys to have this and have a good day. And we walked away, and they just said, God bless you, young man. And I just wanted to cry. When I saw him do that, he was like, Grandma, you know what? I like doing that. I would like to see we can prepare sandwiches.
They used to say, out of the mouths of babes, children, get the same spiritual rush that adults get, and they get the same messages, but, whether they follow up on it, it makes a big difference.
Yes,
and when
absolutely.
Doing things to help people, that's what's growing in their soul. That's what's growing in their mind. Grandma helps people. How can I help people?
Right.
I have some sandwiches.
Absolutely.
I want to say, kids always like to learn, and that's what a lot of parents forget. They always love to learn. They always want new things. I tell, like my sister, have your child know the value of money. When you pay all those bills, she's old enough she can put it in the mailbox, buy a stamp, look at the mail, have her write the check out, and you sign it. So she can know the value of money. She will learn. So, your daughter, any child, teach them those different little things, how to do laundry. They don't have to do it all the time, but just show them how to do it. Make a game out of it. They love it. And that's what you have to, that's how you can teach your child. Just make it out of the game. Oh, all right, go to my mail, see what bills are, how much I have to pay. Have them write out so they can get familiar with it in their future lives, Yeah. And that's what you have to do. That's what you have to do. You have to show them the different things you're doing at home.
I had to pay the bills, how much the bills cost. And I was like, wow, you pay all of that money? My father's rich,
Those
kids, they love that. Love the new things.
$150 was a high bill to me at 8 years old.
Absolutely. Well,
you know
know
these
what?
kids, when they get money, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, because you're saying something valid, and I'm agreeing with you. Go ahead.
A lot of these kids, they don't know the value of money. They get $100. The first thing they want to do is buy some jewelry, some shoes, and I tell them, think about it first. Why don't you save it? What's the advantage of saving it? You got to let them know things like that.
No, and you know what? I'm in agreement because every time it's something I did with him. Every time he passed his spelling, because his spelling test, 2 years ago, he wasn't doing real good. I have to honestly, I'm very transparent and very honest. He was getting 5 and 6 wrong because academically he wasn't feeling it. And now since I'm in the role of doing what I'm doing and he sees and he academically now he's starting to pump up and get his grades up and stuff like that and passing his tests. And his mom communicates with me to tell me, Isaiah, you know what, got nothing wrong. So I was like, all right, keep up the good work. So when I go over, I tell him, you know what, for every spelling test, I'll give you $5, $10. You know what he does? He has a little folder. And every time I give him money, he sticks it in that folder. And I'll tell him, listen, I'll take you Saturday to the mall or something. No, Grandma, I don't need nothing from the mall or from downtown. I said, then what you going to do with the money? He was like, I want to save it for college. And I was like, all right now. And I clap. I said, you go ahead. And let me tell you something. His mother better not try to get nothing from that envelope because every time if she tries just to play around, he'll be like, no, Mom, that's for my college when I go up because I want to be an engineer. He will not touch any money that's in there that's given to him. Let it be his birthday. Let it be for doing chores. It's there, and every time I count it, the amount that I gave him, the amount is there, whatever his mother gives him. He is, I call it a little penny pincher who all that. He will not let nobody touch that envelope because he's set on it for college. And I told my daughter that is absolutely wonderful because you cannot get this kid and tell him, oh, we're going to go to the movies. Let's use your money. That's for something else, Grandma. And I was like, all right, he won't. You know, you have kids, they'll be like, I want to buy candy. I want to buy this. I want to buy that. Not him. Honest to God, not him. I'm blessed. He says, no, Grandma, you know what? You got money. We can use your money to go to the movies or something or to buy clothes, but that I'm keeping it for college. I said, okay. I said it just to see what you was going to say, but his mindset is saving money at that young age, and he will not let nobody touch it. He is
How old is he?
He's 8 years old.
Okay. Francesca, remember, I want to be at his graduation.
Thank you. I'll invite you when it comes up there because I'm always at every graduation. I never miss. He's been student of the month, and I praise him all the time, and I just keep pumping him up. And I just, I do what was not given to me. I didn't have that, family support when I was raising my kids, and I decided to give that support. Many don't do that, but I do it because I don't look at that. Your kids had them, and okay, you don't have to help them. I let her do what she has to do, but I'm involved, and I want to help, and I'm very on education, very stern and strong, and I tell her, if you fall through the cracks, I'm here, and I'm going to be pushing him. So I'm at every graduation. Every time he gets a certificate, he's like, Grandma, look, and I'll be like, I'm so proud of you. Go ahead. So when you are there to support and encourage, the child doesn't feel neglected. He doesn't feel, he feels that love and he feels that encouragement to keep going. I want you guys to know, and Brian knows this, I had stuck him in a modeling thing now, and he had his fitting like 2 weeks ago, and we did our first photo shoot this Sunday.
That's
and
right.
he did awesome, Brian. I have to tell you, he did a 2.5 hour modeling photo shoot at the age of 8, changing 3 times.
You didn't mention it to me. You owe me.
yeah. And he did
That's
absolutely.
interesting because at that age, they usually don't have him sitting that long. They bring it up to like 2 hours.
And he did it. He was like, the second outfit that he had, at first I got to tell you guys, at first he got nervous. And he was like, I don't want to do this. His palms were sweating. And then Darlene came in and he was like, you're absolutely gorgeous. You can do this. And, he did it. He got pumped up by other parents. The second time he had a change, he was...
Francesca.
Huh?
Not cutting you off, but that's the goal, not cutting you off. That's the goal. We have to get people excited about learning again. I'm one that always is learning outside of all the ventures that I'm involved in. In my house, I got books. I write. I read. I got books open everywhere because for me, information is power. And reading stimulates the mind, and not only that, it's a beautiful thing for us, I say, because we have something up on the younger generation. We have life experiences to go along with our education, which makes us in a better position to help others. That's what young people don't have. They don't have the life experiences. So if we can combine our life experiences with education and then pass it on to them so that they don't feel like we're judging them or they're not smart or whatever the case may be, I think we can make a real impact on them to let them know we understand that it's hard. We understand that this is missing, that is missing. But at the end of the day, if we can bring excitement back to learning, I think we can make a real impact.
Yeah, it makes a difference when you give them experiences. For example, I used to take my youth group, and we used to go into the I showed, it was me and another lady that showed them how to crochet, and they made blankets, and we took them into a nursing home, and they had a chance to talk to the seniors in the nursing home. They got into some deep conversation, and before we went in, I spoke to them. I said, talked about when you were their age, how things were different and how things are the same now. And those kids yak all the way home. And this lady, she does the so-and-so like I do. and see, and this one, and she cooked. We talked about cooking, and I said the first thing I learned how to cook was a pie, and she said my best recipe is a pie. I do my grandmother's pie. My grandmother gave me that recipe, and they saw how much they had in common, as opposed to them are old people. We don't have nothing to talk about because that's how they talk about it. So they loved it, and I've done it for 3 years, and then I even did a session in my church where I call it multiple generation talk, and I had it set up, like a speed dating situation where they sit in front of a senior and they had a card saying what the topic is, and the topic might be teenage years, and they talk for 5 minutes, and the bell ring, and they get up and switch to the next senior, and then the next teen comes. And I got it from speed dating, and it worked. That was right before COVID, so we've been back to church for a few months, and people already asked me, Sister Ken, when are you going to do that thing where you have the young people talking to the old people? I said, wait, you're not a young person no more. COVID was 3 years, so they were 12. The ones that was 14 then and 17 now. Well, you're not youth anymore, but I still want to do it. That was good,
No,
so
that's
I'm glad
wonderful.
to hear feedback like that.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Good idea. You built the bridge between the young people and the old people so they could see that we're not really that much different.
Yeah, and you can steal it if you want. It's open.
Oh, my God. I would love to network and do something like that. That's absolutely wonderful because
that's
my
that's
job,
a beautiful thing, something to think about, Francesca.
Yes, absolutely. And let me tell you something. A lot of people, I've done my job over 25 years with seniors, and they tell me, how do you work with these seniors? And I said, listen, I learn from every single senior because if you sit down with them, they will tell you. I love my seniors. Oh, I love my seniors, Adrian. Let me tell you something. I had he rest in peace, I had a veteran, and he would tell me about how many wars he assisted, how many people died. And Miss Lucy, rest in peace, she used to tell me back in the days how it was working in the fields. And when you hear this from seniors, the stuff that they lived when we weren't even born, you'd be like, wow, why didn't you write a book? So people like this many generations see what you guys went through. We had people that were TV stars that went through the war, that went through that Jewish situation. Going back to slavery, I had someone that told me that their parents picked cotton, did tobacco, how much money she got paid. It's not like now, Francesca, that you get hundreds of dollars. Before we used to do it 25 cents, 10 cents. Yeah. And you'd be surprised.
Right now, in my senior ministry, I have 3, what do you call them? I know octogenarian, that's 80-year-olds. What do you call the centurions? I have 3 that are 100 or over. I have one that just turned 100 2 weeks ago, last week. And her big sister, is 102, and they have a cousin that's 105, and they still come to church. And, and every time they come to church, the pastor come up and say hello to everybody, and they get on that mic and don't want to stop. Half the time we don't know what they're saying anyway. But
that's a blessing.
Each group, and when you put them together with the youth, they just light up because the youth are listening to them, and they get to talk to them. It's not like their grandchildren like, oh, grandma, but they but they love it. They love it, and the youth love it.
Yes, that's a really beautiful thing. It's a really beautiful thing because at the end of the day, really, at the end of the day, God created us as social beings. At the end of the day, we as a society are going to always be social with each other. Do I like our behaviors? No. But at the end of the day, social contact is so important. When COVID came on the scene, it got rid of all of that. And I think people are still struggling trying to get back to social contact. It was designed by the Creator, to be social, to have contact. And COVID just did a number on us all
Yes.
especially the youth, especially the kids. So we just have to stay humble, stay on the wall, and just keep doing what's right. And I just believe in my heart that it's going to have a way much better effect than if we not be social beings.
Right.
No,
well, what's your name again, sir?
My name is Bryant. That's spelled Bryant. Mm-hmm.
I want to share something with you, and everybody else cover their ears. COVID did to me. It aged me. You know, I stayed busy during COVID. I worked out 5 days a week. You know, I lost, when I came back, I had lost over 100 pounds because that's what I focused myself on. But the same sense, I'm totally blind, so I didn't realize it. My hair had grayed. And now the young people that I used to work with that used to help me with the seniors, you know, I come into church, I'm going down the stairs, they're taking my arm and escorting me down the stairs. It's like, wait, now they think I'm one of them 80-year-olds, you know. I said, I got to change this. So I started dyeing my hair. I was like, I'm looking older now I'm one of those old seniors to them. I was like, it's only been, 3 years that we were out of church. I said, I refuse to fall in that category. I'm still young. I'm still a young adult.
That's right.
Brian, I got to tell you something about Adrian. Not only is she a wonderful person, but I had the honor to have her at the vision board at Darrell, and her vision board was absolutely beautiful. Everybody came together. Visually impaired, I had Adrian was there. I had so she participated at my vision board, and let me tell you something. She did an amazing job on her board, and I said, you gotta execute that for this. Well, I did it. I think it was 2 years ago, and she came.
Yeah, it was 2 years ago.
Yeah, and you didn't.
I thought it was totally unfair that she's asking a person with no vision to do a vision board.
Yeah, but I got to tell you something, Lady Adrian. I got to tell you something now. People with no vision sometimes have a better vision than those who got eyes.
Oh, yeah, I do. I tell people I have zero vision, but my sight is 20/20.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, I said it backwards. I have no sight, but my vision is 20/20.
Absolutely. And I have to confess.
I mean, for example, Stevie Wonder has never seen a note of music in his life. But if you look at his history of his life, you would never think that.
Yeah. No. Well, I write in direct plays. I know Francesca didn't get to that yet, but I write in direct plays. That's my mission.
So look at So a man like me better not say I got a problem. You write in directed plays and can't see. I better shut my mouth.
And they'll be rehearsing, and I'm like, you have to face the audience when you speak. And they don't ask me, they ask somebody else, how did she know I wasn't facing the audience? They don't realize I can hear you.
Yeah, the sound.
Exactly. And Brian, I have to say, she has her own podcast on Fridays.
Yes. Okay. Can we talk with Adrian?
So you see how amazing this woman is.
I see my schedule. My schedule just
and
got real
John,
full.
that was on, he just joined our podcast family. He has a podcast also. I don't know if he's still on.
Okay, great. I guess I'll be in that family real soon then. I'm just going to stay focused on what I'm doing, and I'm going to just keep doing the work and let God be God.
Okay, so
that's what you got to do. That's what success is about.
Francesca.
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Also, I know in the beginning of the show you was talking about...
I keep calling you John. I'm sorry. That's not your name.
You were talking about mental health and things.
Yeah.
A lot of times it could be from lack of nutrition also, which is a whole different story. I met some homeless people. And some of them are kind of psychotic. I'm like, is this because they're not eating right? And
that's right.
It's proven it has. Even with children. So that's a whole story by itself.
Okay. No, absolutely. I'm in agreement with you. No nourishment, there's nothing to the brain.
Right.
Yeah.
Or
then
when
eating
you get stressed out, it gets worse.
you're eating a candy bar here, a bag of potato chips here, a juice here. So you are correct. It's just something that we that have our health and our minds have to work together on, because it's many of reasons why people have mental health. Trauma is probably the beginning, but when you add life to it, it's multiple reasons. And so we that are healthy in our minds and in our bodies, we just got to come together and work as a team. And I think we can put a dent in it. And I think the most important thing, we just got to show love. I mean, because these people, a lot of them that I deal with on a daily basis, as Francesca said earlier, if you have conversations with them, you will find out that at one time in their life, they were thriving, productive people. So it just makes me humble and grateful of the life that I have. And I'm going to do my best to do what I can to help somebody else's life get better.
And that's what it's all about. Well, my program is coming to an end. I'm just thankful and grateful for everyone that came on. We had a wonderful dialogue. I can't wait for next Wednesday to come so we can continue the conversation. But I have a couple of announcements. So if you guys are still on, right after me, John Monroe comes on at 8 o'clock for Vision Care. Please support this awesome podcaster tonight. And also, Grown Folks Talking has an event August the 10th, 2024 in North from 12 to 6. It's on a Saturday. If you know of anybody that wants to branding, a table, or whatever, you can reach out to me and I'll get you to the right person so they can tell you the pricing for the table. But you'll get to meet everybody that has a podcast that day, all the wonderful podcasters. Adrian is amongst one. I'm amongst one. I know by names a couple, but you get to meet them August the 10th. August the 10th, so be there, 12 to 6 Saturday. It's going to be an awesome event. And I'll see you guys next Wednesday. Thank you so much for your dialogue, your input, advices. I also finished by saying, please help one another. Be there for someone. Always call instead of texting when someone says they're okay. Find out if they're really okay. I do that all the time. And never stop always praising God for waking up the next day, because sometimes we have lost so many people this year that, are gone and have been very, very good friends, and some that are still going through it, hospitalized. I pray for them every single day. But just be mindful to be humble with an open heart and just be absolutely grateful. So to my kings and queens, thank you so much for coming on tonight. I am forever grateful. Adrian, as soon as I come off, I will be giving you a call, my little darling. And Brian, thank you so much for always coming on. Congratulations again, and congratulations on your next journey. And I can't wait to celebrate that next journey. So everyone, enjoy your evening.
Don't you start.
Enjoy your evening, and I'll see you guys next Wednesday.
I look forward
to it. Always love. Enjoy, everyone.